The more I interact with people, the more I see just how standoffish the average person is. And I can tell you this because as a full-time Uber driver, I take at least 20 rides a day, which means if I give 20 rides on a Monday per se, I'll have conversations with 2 to 4 people on a decent day. On a great day, 5 or 6. But on most days, I don't speak to a single soul. And this is not for a lack of trying. This is not for a lack of attempting to initiate a conversation. Because I would much rather listen to my passengers. I would much rather get a sense of who they are, where they're going, what they want to occur, what their dreams and hopes and fears are, what problems they have going on in their lives, how they feel about certain topics of interest. Because then I can better understand the populace. I can better understand how my city is thinking. I can feel the heartbeat of Chicago, much like I did back home in Pittsburgh. And by extension, I can imagine how the heart of America is beating. I would much rather talk to my passengers, but so often they don't want to talk to me. Now, perhaps I am just completely repulsive. Perhaps. But I've had enough great conversations, many, many, many great conversations in my car to tell me that's probably not the case. So what I've gathered is that most people simply don't want to talk to new folks. And the comments in my most popular video over the past month and a half, 2 months, has proven this. Because what I've seen a lot in that comment section is that people believe that everyone around them is crazy. Everyone around them is a psychopath, is cringe or creepy or dangerous, perhaps threatening, which is fair because if all you do is spend your time online, if all of your interactions come with people who are typing and tweeting and commenting, you're gonna believe everyone's crazy. Because people online are unhinged. They have no one to check them. They cannot be held accountable for their actions, by and large. Some people have, but by and large, nobody gets held to account. They can say whatever they want, no matter how obscene, no matter how obscure, and it doesn't matter. So you're only getting the absolute worst out of people online. You're seeing into the dark, deep recesses of their unconscious. The things that they wish they could say in public, the things they wish they could do in public, but they simply don't have the nerve to. If that's the world you spend all your time in, you're going to believe that everybody's absolutely crazy. It's a rational way to view the world if that's the space you spend your time in. And to be fair, you're not completely off. People are definitely a bit loony, especially since 2020. I've been driving since before the pandemic, and I can tell you that prior to the pandemic, people were very different. Post-pandemic, people are very different. They're much more difficult to talk to in many senses because, again, they're very standoffish. Not just because they believe people are crazy, not just because they believe everyone around them is only out for their own interest, completely malevolent, evil characters, but also because people are far more awkward, they're far more anxious, they're far more skittish. They don't know how to open up to other people. They don't know how to quiet the inner monologue within their heads, to silence the chatter and take in someone for who they are completely, their entire spirit, without any thought of the past or the present or the future, without any concern for where they're heading, but rather where the person they're talking to is heading, what they're talking about, what they want to discuss. People are far too skittish and scared to do this, which is a shame because there's so much pleasure in doing it. There's so much pleasure in getting out of your own head, because it's very difficult to be anxious when you're not thinking about your past, what you could have done, what you wish you would have accomplished, who you wish you would have been, your present, what problems you have to tackle, and your future, where you dread going and where you hope you go. It's amazing to just get out of that state of mind. But it's also amazing to take in other people because your imagination begins to run. You begin to think of new ideas, new concepts, new business plans, new paintings, new sculptures, new pieces of art, whatever it may be. The imagination runs because you're opening yourself up to new possibility. More life is flowing through you. It's incredibly enriching. But people are too anxious and too scared to do it. So they refuse to talk. They refuse to interact, which is fine because there's nothing wrong with refusing to interact. And if you're someone who really wants to talk to new people, there are obviously a lot of ways to address this inability to find new friends, to make acquaintances, to build inroads, to make connections. There are a lot of ways to attack this problem. And I've been attacking this problem video after video after video. I don't know which ones I've posted at this point. But to cap this off, I want to say that be patient. Be patient with folks. Be patient with individuals who are skittish, who are cautious, who are very timid and scared to interact with new folks. Be patient, because a lot of people out here are desperate for connection. They are desperate to make new friends. They're desperate to make acquaintances, or to at least feel like they're not alone in this struggle. They're not alone in this vast land of people who are all immigrants, people who are very much detached from their roots, very much detached from any sense of family or community or country at this point. They want to feel like they're not alone. So be patient, because the more I'm patient with people, the more I don't get mad or I don't get frustrated that people don't want to talk, that people are quick to cut off conversations, the more I simply accept it for what it is, accept that people are where they're at, and work with that. Remain in a state of calm and peace and tranquility. Remain in a state of openness. Remain in a state of receiving, where I'm willing and ready to talk with new people. No matter what the circumstance, no matter what the situation, I find that I get more conversations. That those numbers I gave at the beginning of the video, 2 to 4 on a decent day, 5 or 6 on a great one, and most days talking to nobody, those numbers continue to go up. Those numbers used to be lower. They're only getting higher and higher and higher, even with people becoming crazier, more psychopathic, more self-interested, more narcissistic, etc., but also on the flip side of things, and even in many cases, very ambiguous, where people embody both states simultaneously. They run together like water and blood. Cautiousness, timidity, the complete and utter fearfulness that overtakes them when it comes to interacting with new people. The more I'm patient with these folks, the more they tend to open up, the more I'm able to even have tiny conversations, tiny W's, if you want to see it that way, where we talk about even the most minor things, where we even have a chuckle over somebody in traffic who's really flustered or frustrated, somebody who cuts somebody off, or something we see on the side of the road, some tiny topic. Even those little tiny conversations, they boost your morale, they boost your confidence, they boost your hope, and they help everyone. There are these little tiny things that you can do every single day that not only help you, but help other people, and by extension, compound the goodwill that this country desperately needs right now. It's these little interactions, these tiny little opportunities that you and I have to be patient with each other, to remain open and receptive to each other, regardless of how many times we've been trained to believe that nobody's good, that nobody has anything to offer, that everybody's out for themselves and themselves only, that everybody's crazy or timid to the point where they won't speak, or awkward or cringe. The more we're patient, the more we take these opportunities and seize them, the more we can build up this goodwill, the more we can spread this good energy, and we can really turn things around here in a nation that is flailing, that is completely flustered, that doesn't know where to go, that doesn't know where it's heading, and looks confused and beaten and bruised. We can do it if we're simply patient. Because most people do want to talk. Most people do want to have connection. They just don't know how, or they're scared, or they're confused. Now, of course, there are people who are genuinely crazy, who are genuinely narcissistic. But you're not really going to know unless they just come out blatantly with it, give you a huge red flag, something you just can't ignore. Unless you're crazy or somebody who really likes pain. You're not going to know until you really meet them, which requires you to talk to them, which requires you to have interactions with them, which requires you to build a relationship with them, even if it's tenuous, even if it's tentative, based on every single interaction continuing to confirm or completely and utterly deny the possibility of continuing the relationship. You have to give them the chance. People will expose themselves over time, but you're not going to know immediately. And so, in my eyes, it's very simple. If you want to build connections with people, you got to put in the effort, and you got to remain open to people, even though they may be coming at you from very different places, and they're probably scared, timid, or perhaps unable to talk. Be patient with them, and hopefully they will receive that, and they will in turn be patient with others. This is a difficult, arduous process, something that takes years, that takes decades to master. Perhaps none of us can master it. But I believe if we do it, in fact, I know if we do it, things will only get better across the nation, across the world. But most importantly, in the one place that you and I can't control, and that's our own lives. That's how we feel. That's how we wake up every day. That's how we go to bed at night. And at the end of the day, if you stack enough great days, stack enough great nights over the course of your life, it's going to be really difficult at the end of it all to say it wasn't great living it. So with that, I say God bless. Have a great night. I'll see you in the next video. Much love, peace. This is the New Da Vinci.